So what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Robert. If this is your first time tuning in, so today we're going to quickly talk about why cash flow is extremely important, and we're going to go over why it's more important when you're younger, more so when you're older, and we're going to quickly discuss a couple different situations and why it's kind of important to kind of have cash flow. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it. Again, my name is Robert. If you gain any value from this, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Got our dogs with us today. The other one's over there. So cash flow, why is it so important, and who is it most important for? So for most people, again, not financial advice, but for most people, if you're in your retirement years, generally you're going to live another 15 years on average. Again, that's going with the average population, right? There are people that I do know that lived, well into 100 and something years old. So they ended up living quite a bit longer than the standard, 75, 85 years old. So generally when you're older and you have a nest egg, you can typically pull out about 4% per year, and you're generally not going to run out of money for most people. So for most people, generally pulling out 4% per year will allow you to not run out of money if you're in your retirement years. That's generally speaking for most people. Again, that's not the case for everybody, but for most people it is. Again, not financial advice, check with your financial advisor, but for most people, 4%. But the problem comes about is if you're pulling out 4% and you outlive your savings, that's a problem. So that's why cash flow is kind of important. Whether it be rental properties, whether it be dividends, whether it be private equity, whether it be investing with real estate people who flip houses for a return on that as well. There's many different ways to get cash flow, and more so when you're younger, it's even more important. So if you try to get out of your job, you're going to realize you still need cash to pay bills, to do things in life. You still need cash, and that's when cash flow comes to the equation. Is if you have $1 million, whatever, but you don't have any cash flow on it, you're going to run out of money if you're not making any kind of return on that, right? If you just have it sitting in a savings account earning 0.01% interest, chances are you're going to run out of money pretty soon, even if you just take out maybe $40,000 a year if you have a very modest life. So this is when cash flow becomes really, really important. Again, especially for people in and around my age, in their 20s and 30s, and you're trying to live off of $1 million. Say you made $1 million at this point in your life, which is really, really good, by the way, and you're not getting cash flow on that money, or figuring out ways to multiply it quicker than you can spend it, you're going to run into a problem. You're either going to have to enter the workforce again at some point, or you sustain yourself long enough, but now you're too old to really enter the workforce. You don't have the energy, you don't have the drive, the motivation, or the earning power that you once had. So it is raining, but thought I'd make this video before it gets too bad. It's been kind of drizzling on and off. But anyways, now I see a lot of people, I guess I have some friends too, who run into that situation where they have rental properties, and I also had rental properties, and we're selling them off now, but now I have to start thinking about other ways to bring up my cash flow because I'm getting rid of the real estate, right? So that's a situation that I'm finding myself in, is how can I produce more cash flow for my everyday bills, right? And then same with my other friends as well, is maybe they have a business they're selling off, or maybe they have real estate they're selling off. Those are typically the ones that produce cash flow on the property. But once you start to sell them off, or whatever you try to do with it, if you are getting rid of it, you're getting rid of the cash flow every single month. So it's gonna be harder for you to get loans when banks don't see monthly income coming in. You could have a lot of money in the bank, but if they don't have some type of reoccurring source, they don't see that you're consistently bringing in money every single month, it's harder sometimes to get loans like that. So dogs are looking at something. distracted me. Anyways, I will quickly break off into how much cash flow do you really need. Well, that kind of comes down to your spending habits. If you have a luxurious lifestyle currently, then you're probably gonna need a high cash flow when you stop working or when you retire or whatever, just to maintain the same lifestyle. Now, if you pay off your bills, you pay off all your major bills like your houses, your cars, and all of that stuff, you can typically get away with a little bit less. But if you are, or currently living a modest life, you don't really have crazy high spending habits, you can get away with a lower cash flow per month, so requiring less things for you to invest in or less assets for you to buy, and probably will happen in a shorter period of time. Versus if you have a higher luxurious lifestyle, you're going to need more cash flow, meaning you're going to need more assets, which is probably going to take you more time to accumulate those assets to produce the cash flow, so that we can keep your same lifestyle. So how much is that? Well, it kind of depends. So I would say for most people, if you have your bills off, if it's a single person, you could probably get away with about 40,000 for one person in cash flow per year, not per month, but per year. Generally, a single person can get away with 40,000. Now that depends where you live as well. If you live in like California, New York, probably not a good chance you're gonna be able to get away with that. But if you live in some least expensive areas, you could probably get away with that. For two people, for a two-person household, man, and you have to remember, you still have to pay taxes, you still have insurance, you still have utilities, you still have property taxes. There's a lot of other things that you still need to pay for with that cash flow, aside from just your fulfilling your lifestyle, right? So that's something to take into consideration as well. Now for two people, again, not financial advice, but at least 80,000 is probably realistic. If you're really frugal, maybe you can get away with 60, and again, depending on your area as well. But for most people, I would say probably 80. Again, you still have your taxes, insurance, you probably have two vehicles, so you're gonna, assuming those are paid off, you're still gonna have insurance on those two vehicles as well. There's a lot of cost associated with it that you still need to account for. So having that 80 for two people is probably better. Now, if you have a really luxurious lifestyle, then you're probably going to need a lot more, probably 6 figures. If you like to be taking, nice vacations multiple times a year, maybe even 2 or 3 times a year, that's probably going to put you into a 6-figure cash flow problem. It's starting to rain a little bit harder. So just something to consider. Again, not financial advice, but a lot of people think that, just stacking cash away is enough. But what a lot of people don't think about too is cash flow. How is that money gonna produce money every single month? How is it gonna give me an income basically every single month? It's nice to have that stockpile of cash, but if it's not producing more cash or producing a kickback every single month, it's gonna be hard, especially when you're younger, like say my age or anyone younger than me, and you're trying to retire early. You're gonna run out of money very soon if you don't have that money producing basically more babies, right? If it's not making babies, making little dollar bills, you're gonna run into a problem. So just something to think about. Again, hope everyone enjoyed that, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. It is raining, so I'm gonna get out of here.